Welcome to another episode of Healing Money Talks. My name is Emma Lucy Wall, and I invite you, as I always do, to put the kettle on, put your phone on aeroplane mode, find a comfortable place to sit and relax. Listen deeply to the conversation that's about to unfold. You never know what you might hear. So my special guest today is Puja Shah. Puja is a relationship healing coach. She helps women who are unhappy in their marriages to overcome their marital challenges without trying to change their husbands. She's designed a program called Mend It, Don't End It, and the method that she has created is the Wonder Woman Toolkit. Puja believes that women alone are capable of changing the marriage for better without trying to change their husbands. Because when women try to change their husbands, they focus too much on what's wrong with the man rather than mending what's not working in the relationship. So Puja equips her clients with the right tools and the right support. If you'd like to know more, you can find her on her Facebook page, Relationship Coaching with Relationship Coaching with Puja. Puja, welcome.
Thank you, Emma. That was a lovely, warm welcome. And it's a pleasure to be with you today, talking about healing relationship. And yeah, I'm really deeply I'm so passionate about working with women that I have created this program where I can work closely with women and help them and equip them and help them discover the hidden powers that they already have. And
Absolutely.
I'm grateful for the platform that you have for me today. And this is exactly what we're going to talk today about.
And tell me and tell the audience what brought you to create your program and to do the work that you do.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'm glad you brought that up because it is all linked with what I have faced personally and the challenges that I have gone through in my own life. The reason why I've started this is because I am the product of a bad marriage. I have lived my parents' bad marriage for more than 20 years. And I am glad to say that they are still together after 30 years. They are together, they're running their business together, and they are not divorced.
Okay.
There's one part to it. The other part, which is concern to me, is that I am not scarred because of them. Like I'm not scarred seeing their bad marriage. And I got married in spite of seeing them fighting and arguing all day and not getting along well. And I'm married for 8 years, and my marriage is happy, I can say. And that is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And now I want to help other women who might be going through what my parents were going through. And um, I'm doing this for their kids because their kids are the ones who are affected the most when they see the parents fighting. For all these years, I thought that I was the reason why they are fighting. And there was so much blame that I was kind of carrying around my shoulders, and that kept me from thriving and doing things that I was capable of. But when I realized that that's not true, that is when things unfolded the way it would, the way we would desire.
Nice. In fact, from the conversation that we had, our discovery call, it almost sounds like your parents might still be together because of you. I
Yeah,
yeah.
because I was passionate about keeping them together. So I was the middleman who was kind of, well, within my own limits. I was like, I could see what was not working. And I can say that I was gifted in a way that, I had thoughts and ideas or proposal that could work for both.
Mm-hmm. And it was you came in via the mother, I gather.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
were doing your
yeah,
work.
I did actually, because she's the one whom I work with most of the time. I don't want to kind of mother my own mother, but then, when you know what's not working, you want to tell them so that it works out for them and for us as a family.
And what's your rationale behind coming using the woman to heal the relationship rather than the partnership?
Because I always saw my mother had more complaints rather than my father. Right now, if you call them and ask them, like if you call my mother, what's wrong with my father, she has a list, endless list of this is what's wrong. And if you ask my father, he's like, oh no, everything is fine. It just happens, I'm cool with it. So I thought that it's the woman who needs more support, and the way we connect is through by speaking to other women or friends or family, and if they have the answers to your questions, you're laughing.
Yeah. And what do you think? Because that does sound very familiar, having been in a marriage where I probably did a fair amount of complaining. Why do you think women are more likely to to do the complaining? Do you think?
That's a very good question, because men does not see the way we see things.
Yeah.
For them, everything is very simplistic, and they have a whole approach. Whereas women, we are designed in a way that we see the details of everything, and then we try to improvise the situation, because every woman is the queen of the house, and she's the one who looks after everything, and somehow she shoulders so much responsibilities that that brings the good in the home, whether she's working or not, but she's taking care of the kids, husband, like she's taking care of the future in a way by making sure that the environment in the house is good, the keeping the motivation up, bringing the good new vibes in the house. So she is the one who is vibrating at the energy of kind of up leveling, success, thriving, what next. It's not the men, it's the women who does that. I'm not saying that women are the ones to be blamed. No, that's not my aim. Sometimes it comes across as, if women had to do all the work, what are men there for? What do we? So it's not about that. It's that we do have that inner power. It's just that we need to discover and we need to break through. And that could happen with the right tools, with right mindset and right support.
Hmm. So we can. So it sounds a bit sort of law of attraction-ish, as in
Um,
energy flows where focus goes. If we're in a low vibration, then that's what we're going
that
to
is
receive.
Yeah, that is just one thing to start with, like law of attraction, but I have witnessed that that's not the only thing. It's about the energy where you vibrate. It's a next level thing.
Hmm.
Like supposingly if you had a fight with your husband in the morning, that is the energy that you are going to carry the whole day. You are going to cook food with that energy. You are going to call your mom with that energy. You're going to call your husband with the same energy, and it's not helping you at all. And
Hmm.
we don't know, like, since how long we have been carrying this. So I had, even though I was very conscious about like the way my marriage unfolds, I still have the patterns of my parents' marriage, and I have to see them and change them. Until you see them, you can't change them. So it's a little bit about being aware as well. Like if you're aware, you can change it. So
Yeah.
it's about the vibration. Of course, the law of attraction is there, but I'm not denying that it's not there, but there is more to it.
Hmm. That does sound embarrassingly familiar. My poor mother used to actually have to hold the phone away from her ear when I phoned ranting about my sorry ex-husband. But yeah, and I had no tools. I had all I had was just my own emotions, and I think I fueled them with all those conversations that I had and with all that sniping. I didn't have a good safe place to put it. I felt very alone. And is that something that you're experiencing, that people are?
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that is something that I have experienced myself, and I have seen my mother go through as well.
Hmm.
And this is something as well which I see in my clients as well. And yeah,
Yeah. So you give them a space. You give them, maybe, do you give them permission to acknowledge what's going on? And
yeah, yeah. Because sometimes I feel, Emma, that, as a coach, it's not my job to kind of pamper them or kind of, give them sympathy. Of course, I'm there for that, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is to break through that and do what you can actually, you can do, achieve what you can really achieve rather than staying stuck.
Yeah.
So the opposite of stuck is shift. So my job is to show them the mirror that this is what's happening, and then they can change it by
Mm.
all means. So it's my duty. I take it as my duty, like, like the doctors, it's their duty to save lives. So I believe it's my duty to help women change and achieve that shift for her own betterment.
Yeah, and ultimately for the rest of the family as well.
Exactly.
it's not just about the woman, is it? Because it
Exactly. That is exactly why I work with women, and I love to work with women. I'm a woman myself, so I know, I can feel them, and I can understand where they're coming from. So yeah, it makes so much sense.
Mm. I'm quite interested to know what the sort of the curve has been for your parents, because I gather that when you were very young there was a lot of tension.
Yeah. So there was not always verbal arguments or fighting.
Hmm.
It was mostly silent treatment.
Right.
Like there was always a wall. That's what I knew. If and also because of they were living in, I have been brought up in a joint family where you have like 10, 12 people all the time in the house
Hmm.
under the same roof. Like, my father's side has a big family, so they were all together.
Hmm.
So I think that was one of the reason that you can't really connect well with your partner, unlike today, where it's just the two of you and the kids at
Yeah.
the most. So that was one of the things. But as and when things changed, like, um, like we grew up, there were less family members in the house. Well, my parents, changed cities because of our education. So I was the eldest in the family. So I moved out. It was my goal that I wanted to move out of this house because I can't, be in this and grow at the same time. However, I wanted to be with them and help them, but I was uh, I also wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I knew that I had to move out from that small town and go to a bigger city for my university studies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
After which, my vision was to bring my brother as well, that I wanted to pull him out of that situation. And I was like, oh, come on, you need to go out as well. And after a couple of years he moved in the same city as me, and this is where my parents moved out of that situation. So we kind of became the reason why they were able to leave the house, which they wanted to do for ages, which they couldn't. So they just had to wait for the time. And when we grew up, our education became the reason why they started a nuclear family. That is exactly where things were on the top,
Uh,
like the shouting, the arguments, everything, because they can actually speak now. They
oh,
had that room to speak. You can't speak all the things in front of your in-laws and stuff like that. So my mother was that kind of a girl who wouldn't speak in front of adults, or she would respect, like a level of respect, and she would just keep everything to herself. Whatever she was keeping to herself all these years came out in a very bad way. All
good.
at once. So
Yeah.
it was good in a way. It was not good for me and my brother, though. But
Mhm.
I knew where they were coming from. I knew what was going on for a very long time. And I knew it was not working for us as a family.
Yes.
And especially my father. He used to be with us all the time, but still used to work in the town because he owned a business. So he was always commuting. So he was the one who was then physically drained and then mentally drained as well.
Hmm.
And because of all this that was going on after we became a nuclear family, it had a really bad impact on the financial situation. So this is where
Yeah.
relationship and money goes hand in hand. So yeah, for after that period, we lived poor for a very long time because of that, because he was not able to perform the way he would want to. He was not showing up his best. He was making decisions that would ruin everyone else's life because we were all dependent on him. I wasn't kind of financially independent because I was studying it back then. It was not like that you study and you make money at the same time. You just study and then you kind of get yourself a job and things like that. So then that was my second goal, not only to help them relationship wise, but to become financially independent so that I can support them as well. So this is where I feel that, if the relationship is not working, it has an impact, not just financial, but every other area of your life. It could be health, wealth, everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, well, you are quite an inspirational young lady to take all of that on board.
Oh,
And
thank you.
another bit of our conversation, listeners, was that I asked Pooja, an 18-year-old girl, that's a lot of pressure, and your answer was so lovely. Do you remember what you said to me?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody what you said?
I'm happy for you to tell. That's fine.
Well, you just said that's my path. I'm strong enough to
Yeah,
take it on board, and I really admire that because a lot of people who feel that they've got this great big burden
yeah.
can feel quite overwhelmed by it. So I applaud you for your strength and for stepping into
Thank you.
that as your purpose, and then beyond your own nuclear family to then move it into the world and to take that experience to
Yeah.
empower other people to improve their lives.
Yeah, this
So
is where I believe that this is my purpose, because I never used to tell God like, why me? I'm always like, try me, you
yeah,
know.
love that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, if you can break through that and if you have a solution, then that's not a problem. This is what I believe. So anytime, even today, it doesn't mean that I have the tools, I don't have the problem. I do have the problem. I have my own in-laws. My husband's side of family is quite huge, and they are all brought up with different values compared to what I have been brought up with. And there is a constant, what can you say, ideological differences. Like you think something, they think something else. But I think it's about meeting each other halfway through. So you understand their point of view, they understand your point of view, and you meet them halfway through. So that helps not only to build a relationship with your husband, but it's about having that bond and connection with his parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is what makes your life easy. So more than I worked with like improving my relationship with my husband, I have worked more on improving my relationship with my in-laws. So
Really?
so it goes that far.
You,
That's what I
you
want to
put
pick.
more energy into working with them than you do with
Yeah,
working
to
with me.
create that bond, sometimes people think that they're not my parents, but I don't look at it that way. They are still my husband will respect his parents as much as I respect my parents. So
Yeah.
if you don't want bullshit, you want to make sure that everything is everyone's point of view is considered. I think this is somewhere I'm gifted, that I can understand what other person is thinking and give that importance as well, rather than just thinking what I am thinking.
Mm-hmm. And in our conventional way of being, that almost feels like, I mean, I can feel that sort of people taking a stand and going, well, I'm not moving on this at all. And it feels like you've got a much more fluid approach to relationships than that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I value people. It just comes natural. It's
Yeah.
not that my views are not important. It's not that I should compromise. No, I'm not saying that. You have to do what you have to do. But
Mm-hmm.
then you can't be bothered by what others are saying. And at the same time, you can't insult them like, no, this is not right. Okay, I understand what you're right, but I need to do this in order to do this. So it's important for me and I will do it, but I do acknowledge what you feel, and I'm sorry, I can't do nothing about it. You
Yeah.
don't have to always put into this kind of words, but this is something that you hold on in your mind rather than, how dare you say no to me, something like that. Who are you to say no to me? No, of course, they have all the right over me because, they love me equally. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But yeah, you got to have some common grounds where you can meet each other.
Yeah. And it's a good place to start, isn't it, to
Yeah,
build from?
yeah. There is a way I'm happy to give you a tip. Like the way I deal with it is like, things which are inevitable, like things which you really, really, really want, you can't change anything of that. And things which you might,
Yes.
there is some room. So depends on what they demand from you and depends on what your purpose is in your life. You have this to list. Okay, I can make some adjustments, and this one, no, this is inevitable, it has to happen. Like, it's my purpose to help women no matter what. Not my little girl, not my in-laws, not my husband, nothing can come in between me and my purpose. But when it comes to something else, like which is kind of, you can make some adjustments and make sure that everyone's happy with that. That's fine. We can do anything here.
Yeah.
So
And that's lovely that you have a little girl that
yeah,
you're bringing up and bringing up into this healthy and thriving relationship.
yeah, yeah. It was really valuable when I had few months that I spent with my mother, and I think she witnessed the way I am mothering my own girl.
Hmm.
So, and when she left the last day, when she was going to go back to her place, and she was like, it's so different the way you kind of, nurture your kids these days compared to what we were like. And so I was really pleased, and my eyes were full of tears, looking her and listening to her what she had to say about the way we upbring in today's generation, and knowing what I know, it really helps.
Well, we are evolving, aren't we? I mean,
Yeah,
we're not stuck. And if you think about, our parents, I think I'm a little bit older than you, and my parents did their best, and there was all sorts of
exactly.
child psychology coming out at the time that I was being born, which they would never have heard about. So, generation on generation, we move just a little bit further along the spectrum of consciousness and awareness. And so much about this is awareness, isn't it? You can't begin to change aspects of your relationship if you're
Exactly.
not aware of what's happening.
Yeah. No, exactly. 100%.
So
I
your little girl is 5, yes?
Yes, she's 5.
And growing up in a harmonious household.
Yeah,
And tell
that.
me, do you and your husband ever argue?
Oh yes, oh yes, of course, of course. It's healthy to argue. It's always good to speak out what your heart really wants rather than pleasing and saying, "Oh yes, I agree. Oh yes, I agree." And then inside you're like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." And then that reflects in some shape or form in another issue. And then in another situation, the old issue comes up, and that's no good. So it's always better to talk it out and kind of just be authentic, even with your husband.
Nice. And so what would your recommendations be to any of our listeners who are struggling in their relationship, apart obviously from coming to work with you? Um,
Oh, I think I think it depends on what they are struggling with, but mostly, as I know from my clients' experience, is getting your husband to get him on the same page as you. That's the biggest thing. Like if you say that, for example, I don't know, you want to party tonight, and he says, no, I don't want to. Something as simple as that. It could be something related to parenting. Like, this is how I want to be more strict with my kids so that, they are more disciplined when they go out. And husbands are more kind of lenient, and they're quite liberal. Oh, you can do what you like and things like that. So I think the most important thing is to get on the same page. And for that, it is important that you communicate what you think of a certain situation or what you feel is needed. As I said, this is inevitable and this is something where I can make adjustments. So it's important that you make yourself heard. You don't assume that he must know or he should know. No, they don't really. Because even when you tell, they're not listening.
that's a big difference, isn't it, between men and women? My experience is that women, we seem to sort of intuitively know what's going on for one another. And I have 3 daughters, and my 3 daughters always seemed to know what was going on for me. And then my husband would come in from work and be like, "Oh, what's going on?" It drove me insane.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe if I'd been a little bit more patient and sympathetic. But yeah, with 3 daughters, I had my own set of needs.
Yeah, of course. And I don't blame you for that. Of course, we do have that, and we need to meet that in some shape or form. Otherwise, you can't show up as your best self because you can always give from the full cup. You can't give from the half cup. Yeah.
And what do you think about the shape of society at the moment? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of separation, particularly with COVID and everything that's happened in the last year. What's your take on all of that?
it is no wonder that it's happening because we are so used to not being with each other because we are so busy in our own life, either job or house or any works, and we have our own lives apart from COVID. But since the COVID happened, I think both of them are together all the time, whether they're working or not, they're under the same roof, and they don't have their own space. And when I say own space, I mean not with their colleagues. Like men is with their colleagues and women is with her colleagues when they are at work and stuff like that. They have their own life and they might be living apart in in the form of workplace. They just come home for kids eating, sleeping, and just the basic. And most of the time they're working out. But when they are together, that is something they realize that we've not been together for long, and now we don't know how to cope when we're together. So that's the reason why the separation. But I think that's exactly what I mentioned, like getting on the same page, creating alignments, like, this is how we're going to work together. There is lack of um, shared goals, and they're both working on their own stuff rather than our stuff.
Yeah.
So this is where I think the separation comes into picture,
Mm.
because everyone wants to live their own life without any interference.
Yes, which is a little bit contrary to having made a promise that you're going to live a life with somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that's true.
Oh, well, Pooja, thank you so, so much for your time and for your wisdoms and your inspiration.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for having me. And I hope our conversation can change just one life today. Then it's all worth it.
Well, people can hear where you are and they can reach out. All your links are there. And
Probably.
yeah, you're right. Let's send some love out into the world and make the world a happier place.
Exactly. One person at a time.
Exactly. Thank you
Thank you
again
so
so,
much.
so much.
Thank you.